This podcast is for informational purposes only and does not constitute legal, tax, investment, financial, or other advice. It is not intended to cause or induce breach of an existing agency agreement.
Hello? 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 This is the Vancouver
Commercial
Real Estate Podcast.
And welcome back to the Vancouver Commercial Real Estate Podcast. I'm Cory Wright.
And I'm Melisa Moretti.
And Melisa, on today's episode, we are very fortunate. We actually have a guest join us in the studio.
Yeah.
In the studio. So for all those listeners that may not know, most of the commercial guests, I'd say 99% of them, all call in. And we can wear tank tops. We can be in flip-flops. We can be on our computers, do all that stuff.
A muscle shirt and short shorts.
Yeah, I wear my muscle shirt and short shorts. Unfortunately, there's not very many muscles there to show off. So I usually get yelled at by Adam downstairs. But we have Kevin Johnston, president of Strand, which is a major developer. And we are very fortunate. We had Mike Mackay, also from Strand. He joined us probably about a year ago.
Yeah.
As well. And they've done some tremendous projects. And he's on today to talk mainly about a new project they have coming up on West 2nd there. Awesome location. It's an office building, which I think when you hear his thoughts on why they launched when they did, it makes a lot of sense. Not a lot of people are doing this right now. But they've had a lot of success with a lot of interest so far. So we have him on today to talk all about that. But before we get to that, I listened to Matt Adams' episode on the residential Vancouver Real Estate Podcast. It was a tremendous episode this past week and very heartfelt and very moving.
Yeah. So they had Jaden Lee, he works in real estate. He's a very young, I want to say he's in his early 20s. But he has a remarkable story where he was diagnosed with cancer in his teens and fought it in BC Children's. And basically so they say, cancer comes back within the first 5 years generally. So he's done 5 years. He's now on his 5th checkup for, to see if he's cancer free basically. But he's fundraising to give back to the BC Children's Hospital. And so his goal is he's going to go to his checkup and get this. He's going to run 100 miles.
Not kilometers, 100 miles.
100 miles. So last year, I believe it was last year, he did 100 kilometers and he raised $125,000, which is incredible. He's kind of a remarkable human. He's kind of one of those people where you're like, wow, he's really doing something special. That's for sure.
Making a difference.
He's making a difference. Absolutely. So we want to just point to that episode and point to, you can find him on our Instagram and you can donate and you can be part of his run even.
And for the record, 100 miles.
Yeah.
That's got to be something like around like 1 million kilometers, I would think. So
I think it's 160. Isn't it 1.6?
Oh, you're asking me?
I mean, you're the numbers guy here.
Yeah, not when it comes to that, just the math on how much the lease costs.
Yeah.
Great cause. He's out there. Year five. Year five. So, obviously everyone is extremely optimistic and very hopeful that the results are the same as years 1 through 4.
Yep.
The stress of going through the situation and then after running that long, I think speaks, it's amazing. It's amazing. So we're looking to raise $150,000.
$150,000. So if any of our listeners donate, we're offering a free VCREP t-shirt.
A free shirt. Where do you donate? How do listeners donate?
Well, so you can go to our Instagram. We have it linked there. Okay. It's on our story right now, but I believe we're going to be putting it in the bio of some sort. You can always even shoot us a message. We'll respond to you. How do I find Jaden?
Well, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to donate $500 to that, but I want 2 VCREP shirts. Because in the wintertime, I'm an extra large.
Okay.
And in the summer, I'm a large. So I can switch back and forth.
Okay.
So I'm going to start it off there. I'm going to get the link for that.
Amazing.
And we're going to put $500 from William Wright Commercial towards the amazing cause. And hopefully the listeners will follow that. But without further ado, let's get to our interview today with Kevin Johnston, president of Strand.
All right, let's go.
This week's episode is brought to you by our great friends at Impact Commercial Group.
Really enjoy working with Impact Commercial. And we should say Al and his team can basically do anything when it comes to lending.
Anything when it comes under the commercial umbrella. You're building a building in development, we got you covered. You're buying land, we'll make that happen for you. You're investing in a property or a multifamily building, check. Owner-occupiers looking to acquire their own space, double check. Anything commercial financing you need, Impact Commercial is your go-to.
ImpactCommercial.ca. And we should say over 50 years of combined experience. So trust these guys. They're the right fit.
Best in the business, in my opinion. Okay, so we're here today with Kevin Johnston, president of Strand, in person, I must say. We actually got him down to the studio. Kevin, how's it going?
It's fantastic. I'm so happy to be here. It's a lovely day outside. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, great. Thank you so much for taking the time to come join us. Before we get kind of into it, can you tell us a little bit more maybe about yourself and Strand?
Sure. Well, just about myself, I'm a chartered accountant. I've been in the real estate game for about 15 years. Started off from a financial perspective as a CFO and have moved into a more operational role over the years. Joined Strand about 4 years ago. Mike Mackay, the CEO, and I had a longstanding relationship along with his father, John. And when I saw what Mike was building on the development platform, I certainly wanted to be part of it. And since then, Strand has, we've done a number of deals. We've become more of a household name than we ever have been. And although we've been around for about 45 years, we mostly flied under the radar until about the last 10 years when Mike sort of took over on the development side and has really brought a lot of projects to life.
And we were very fortunate. We had Mike on probably maybe a year or so ago and kind of put a lot of light to a lot of those projects. I do agree with you. Like, obviously, you guys have been around forever, but it seems like we see your signs everywhere, especially in Burquitlam and buildings popping up. So you guys have done a tremendous job getting out there.
Yeah, Mike is very ambitious. Anyone who's ever met him knows that he is full throttle.
Yeah, no, you guys have done a great job. So you guys are both in residential and commercial. Do you have any memorable projects that people might recognize that we could maybe just touch on before we kind of get into some of your future projects?
One of our great accomplishments recently is the Oaks. It's a 400-unit condo development, 3-phase, phased parkade in Coquitlam, right on Clark Road. Fully sold out. We just completed the third building of 3. Completing that project out. It's the first condo project under the Strand banner, under Mike's strong leadership, and it's something we're very proud of.
Yeah, no, I actually drive by it all the time, and I take my kids to Costco. I have a 5 and a 7-year-old, and I try to drag them to Costco some Saturday mornings, and I try to teach my kids as much as we can. And where your buildings sit, there's the neighboring project which wasn't yours, but then you have like the animal vet on the corner. And my son keeps saying, "Dad, how long before that building's gone?" And I'm like, "Oh, he's learning. He's learning.
Yeah.
He's learning." So
not long.
Yeah,
we know that project.
Well, one thing we wanted to talk to you about today is you guys have a tremendous project coming up there in Mount Pleasant there on 2nd Street. I know there's lots of excitement about it. Can you maybe tell us a little bit more about that project, what's entailed, and also maybe why now?
Why now? Well, good question. So it's a 112,000 square foot office project on West 2nd, right by Olympic Village. Great access to transit, great access to the amenities of Mount Pleasant. It's just a wonderful office project. And we broke ground on it last week. We had the mayor out to say a few words, and he was really supportive of the project. Historically, the Mount Pleasant area has seen a lot of great small and medium-sized users come in and attract a lot of great talent, a lot of great amenity in the area. And so we wanted to invest in that and in the growth. And through COVID, what happened was the city decided to change the zoning to encourage developers to develop their sites by basically upzoning it. They increased the density. They doubled the density on our site particularly. Wow. And that really made the project economically viable. And so we've been working on this project for a number of years. As we know, office through COVID has endured some challenges, but we really see that coming back. This is not a huge project. We've already seen a great amount of interest in leasing the space, and we decided, along with our partners, to move forward with this project and start construction. There aren't a lot of other projects doing that, as you may know. Yeah. Office is a 4-letter word right now.
Yeah.
But given the unique characteristics of this site, and to be the only game in town when we know there are great tenants that want to be in this community, they want to be in Mount Pleasant, they want to attract talent, they want a first-class building, we thought that it was the right time to go.
Yeah, no, you made a great point before we hit record about if there's not a lot of competition out there in the new construction side for office, you become one of the only games in town. And we're very bullish on office. I think obviously right now, there's a lot of negativity in the news, maybe because also Vancouver was such an unhealthy tenant market for so long with just sort of like almost unrealistic vacancy rates that the minute it moves, it's a news story. But if you look at how we position ourselves on the office side as a city versus maybe other major markets, we are far better than a lot of cities right now and far better than a lot of American cities. And what you hear out there that I think, people are going to show up, they're going to come back, and there's too many people moving into this province that are going to need jobs, and those jobs are eventually going to happen somewhere. Probably a lot of them in the office sector in the coming years.
It's very true. It's vacancy has risen, occupancy rates are down, but if you look at the broad context, as you said, we are still one of the best, if not the best, office markets in North America. Yeah. So investment is coming here. Immigration is going to continue to push that, and I 100% agree with you.
And I think we talked about this a little bit too. The geographical constraints are one thing, but the political constraints that this province deals with on the development side, obviously, and we're not going to get into talking too much about that, but it creates, projects take a long time. So as people are showing up and they need workplaces and homes, we can't get projects going as fast because we have more people showing up than how quicker than we can get shovels in the ground. I don't disagree with you one bit. I think, the office market is going to come soaring back, all of that stuff. Some other projects before we kind of dig into this a little bit more, you touched on as well. You guys have an amazing project in Langford. And I know we talked to Mike about that when we had him on there. It was a massive acquisition in a town that's is booming. Can you tell us maybe a little bit more about that project as well?
Yeah, we love Langford. It's one of the fastest growing communities in North America, Canada. And we purchased an 81-acre site in the heart of Langford that initially was envisioned as primarily an industrial business park. Since then, we've worked with the city to carve off certain pieces that will become more of a residential focus, just given the proximity to Bear Mountain and some of the adjacencies. It really made sense to pivot on part of that to go residential. But there's been a great amount of interest in the industrial component, light industrial users that need dock loading, things like that. There is a huge amount of commerce that occurs in that neighborhood. And we are really looking forward to having a long-term footprint in the Langford market.
And the project so far, the interest level and all that stuff over there has been what you've expected so far?
It's been very strong. I mean, typically the Victoria industrial market is not a pre-lease market. So we are moving forward with the construction of our first building this year and bringing that to market. And we're working with a number of interested users, but no one has locked it down yet.
So here's what I would like to do. Obviously, the development world's changed dramatically in the past few years from COVID to construction prices to everything. What challenges are you guys still experiencing now, just as a development community out there? Obviously, prices are high, but what other challenges has there been that you've had to overcome to keep going? Because you guys have projects everywhere.
We do. Yeah, we do. It is a difficult time to be a developer right now. It's we're in this moment in the market. I call it the whipsaw, but it's where revenues have either stopped growing or are coming back in a lot of segments of the market. But construction costs, municipal costs, financing costs, everything is going in the opposite direction. So your margins are compressed, making it much more difficult to get these projects off the ground, let alone try and finance them, find the equity to move these projects forward.
Now, are you finding lenders are coming back to the table more now than maybe they were a year or two ago with stability somewhat out there? Or is that still a challenge?
I think that's absolutely true. In most segments of the real estate market, lenders are coming back and they're being a little more aggressive than they were a year ago.
Good to hear.
There has been a bit of a flight to quality that we've seen, and lenders are doing more deals with less clients.
Yeah.
And so it's making it tougher for the smaller developers. But if you're well capitalized and you have great projects, you should be fine.
Now, you touched on a little bit how you guys have projects everywhere. What markets are you guys excited about, like out there? Like, what are you? Where's Strand looking to go, or where do you have the finger on the pulse type of thing?
We've just launched our second tower in Coquitlam, which will mark about just under 500 units that we've got in two towers there. We've got a third tower coming behind it, and that's all on the back of the Oaks project I mentioned earlier, which was about 400 units. So we've got quite a lot going on in that market. In addition to all that condo product, we've got about 350 rental homes coming adjacent to those condo projects in wood frame buildings. So we're big believers in the Coquitlam market. We love that whole Port Moody area. Surrey is another area that we're actively investigating. And then, of course, Langford. We've got a project in Nanaimo. We like Nanaimo as well.
Great market.
It's a great market. New access to Vancouver coming for commuters with the fast ferry. And it's just a price point play. People can afford ground-oriented homes there, and a lot of people do want that product type. So we have a 168-unit townhouse site called Park and Forth in Nanaimo, which will come to market next year. in addition to some of the townhomes that we're doing in Langford.
Yeah, we were very fortunate. We had Mayor Krogh on the program about a year ago or so. Give around the same time we had Mike on that, and it sounds like it's the right guys driving the bus over there. And I agree.
Incredible. He's sharp. He's business focused. He knows what it takes to grow that community.
And I think with the Hello Ferry, as you mentioned there, I come from Burke Mountain in Coquitlam, and I can take an hour and a half to get from Coquitlam to my office on Robson in Vancouver. If I could sit on a fast ferry in a nice recliner and read the paper and have a coffee in 70 minutes, that sounds like a much better idea than me sitting in traffic along Hastings. So I think
doesn't like boating, right?
I know it's awesome. And we're very bullish on Nanaimo. We talk about it all the time over there. I think it's a great project. Now, when you guys launched that, what is the expectation? Like, what are the absorptions? Obviously, you guys have looked at that. Maybe for a listener that maybe looks at a project over in Vancouver that thinks like, oh my gosh, it sells out in a weekend.
No, this is more of a tempo market. So like these are townhomes that will sell for, call it between $600,000 and $700,000. So very, very attainable in relative terms compared to what you would pay for a townhouse here with your own garage and own backyard and all of that. So we're expecting absorptions. It will ebb and flow with the launches of each phase of this project, but we're expecting tempo absorptions of between 5 and 10 units a month.
Now, is that a market that you guys will think, based on the success of that when it comes out, is that a market you guys think you'll look more into if it goes as planned?
We already are. We're already looking at expanding our footprint in that market and just building upon some of the things that we're doing there.
Well, I know a great brokerage that just opened up over there that can help you with that.
Perfect.
Yeah, well, I'd love to talk a little bit more about the project you guys have coming up on West 2nd. I know we touched a little bit about it before, but so previously, I guess what I was reading is that the zoning has changed.
Yes.
And so that made it a more viable project for you guys. Can you speak a little bit about what the zoning was before and why it didn't make sense and why now it does make sense?
Basically, the zoning before was a 3.0 FSR. With the size of the site that we had initially bought it years and years ago as a holding property. It had some tenancies. It was producing income. And in order for us to demolish that existing use and move forward, that level of density just didn't really make the financials work properly. So when the city then increased the density and effectively doubled it, that started to make things work from a development perspective. So we were full speed ahead, and we designed a great building. If you know the site, you know that it's got this triangular angle. And so what we've done is we've done this flat iron design, lots of glass. It's a beautiful architectural piece. Yamamoto Architecture is the architect on the file, and he's just fantastic. And he's really built a beautiful design for this building.
Do you guys already have tenants that you're hoping to get in there, or do you have an idea of who may be coming into the space?
Yeah, so we're working with Glenn Gardner and Robin Buntain over at Avison on the tenant front, and we have a handful of tenants that are interested. Everyone from tech users to a health adjacent use, and we're excited about all of them, and we're in active discussions, and more to come on that.
Right. Okay. Awesome. And I keep seeing the word creative industrial. Can you speak a little bit to what that means and what that might look like? If you're just in the area walking by, what is that?
Yeah. So a third of the building is creative industrial, and we placed that on the bottom 3 floors. And so creative industrial is a very broad use. It's a throwback to the industrial roots of the Mount Pleasant area. And what the city is trying to do is encourage users that have a manufacturing element to them. You think of Terra Breads, where they've got their bakery, they're producing breads, they're distributing them from that location, but they also have a storefront where you can go in, you can have a sandwich, you can have a coffee. Those types of uses are great uses for that ground floor space. And then there are some tech users that manufacture products that would also fit into that use, so they could be on upper floors.
Right. That's exciting.
Mm-hmm.
Very cool. Are there other areas in Vancouver because obviously this piece of property was rezoned, were there other properties that were also rezoned to?
Yes. The city of Vancouver looked along West 2nd, and that's primarily where they focused their attention in this early stage of rezoning. And then I think they're looking at other areas of Mount Pleasant as well to provide some additional density to encourage that employment.
Yeah.
So here's what I'm curious on the development side. It's just as a whole. How does a deal look now? And by that, I mean, there's been so many changes like we talked about earlier you guys have gone through. How do you pencil a deal today with land prices and interest rate and construction costs? How does that look to Strand?
It's that's a very good question. Very, very carefully, I think, is the answer, Cory.
Yeah.
Not a lot of deals are working right now, and you're probably seeing that through the industry. Not a lot of transactions are happening. Land is not moving. Sellers want to hold on to yesterday's price, and buyers, developers, savvy ones, are not necessarily moving on that. So we're being very careful. We are looking at new sites, but we need to be cautious about how we're going to finance them, where costs are actually going. Because with inflation, we have seen continued construction cost escalation. We were hoping that was coming to an end. About a year ago, there was a lot of talk about how things were stabilizing on the construction costs, but that's not what we've been seeing. So the long answer is we're not seeing a lot of great deals right now.
Yeah, no, it seems pretty consistent. I think you nailed on the head there from the brokerage side of the business, even like through all 7 of our offices. It seems very consistent that there's a lot of pens down right now. And we had, unfortunately, with the last rate hike we just had, there was several land deals that probably semi worked, and there was probably optimism, and they all kind of went by the wayside. And I don't think it was so much the last rate hike that did it, because the reality is if your deal didn't work 25 basis points before, it doesn't work now. It's just more or less like we don't know where we're going, and there's uncertainty around there. What are your thoughts on all this stuff from like an economic standpoint?
Yeah, it's a good question. Obviously, the Fed just raised rates again in the US. We've been raising rates, and most people believe that we're at the end, or at least in the US. I think they believe that that's probably the last one, but we've been fooled before. And they won't stop until they've really crushed this growth that's happening in the economy. It's been stubborn inflation, and it's a confluence of items that are really causing all of this inflation. And the only thing that they can do is lay down this big hammer that they have called interest rate hikes.
Yeah.
I think what happens is the US does eventually go into recession, probably next year. We may see a mild recession in Canada. And then interest rates start to taper off and come back to somewhere in the norm. I don't know that they'll ever come back to where they were in 2020, 2021.
I know it's free money at that point.
It was a great time to be, borrowing money. And a lot of people maybe borrowed a little too much, and that's coming back.
I think I go back to that days. I remember sitting in my basement thinking, okay, if I don't die, and this is what the BOC rate is right now, I'm like, this market's just going to go boom if we don't die. And then sure enough, saying it hypothetical at the time, fast forward like 2 months, off it went. So no, I agree with you. I think, I don't think we'll ever see those rates again, and probably should have borrowed more money in hindsight now, but it's okay. But
on the positive note, I think what this does is it creates inflation in revenues as well.
Yeah.
You may not be seeing it on the resale side because it's so hard to get a resale mortgage today.
Yep.
But ultimately, the resale pricing is continuing to move in a positive direction. Rents are continuing to move in a positive direction because they have to. They have to support this, the additional construction costs that are pushing through. People are making more money. There's real wage inflation happening.
Yeah.
So revenues will help right the ship to some degree.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, where are cap rates for those types of income properties? With not a lot of transactions, it's difficult to peg where cap rates are today.
No, that's something that Strand would look at. Like, do you look at value add opportunities on the commercial side as well as development opportunities?
We do absolutely, and we're looking at them all across North America. We feel like it's coming into a good time to be purchasing some of those sites where others may not be able to make sense of the debt, or maybe carrying debt at an unreasonable rate, and we can come in and make an opportunity from that.
Well, I think, and we've talked about this on the podcast, and we've had guests to talk about this. I think the opportunity, if you can make numbers work, is phenomenal right now because there's not a lot of players at the table, because I think a lot of people can't see past the forest and through the trees where all their interest rates are too high. But if I can find something that's got hair on it, which in our world means there's problems on it, if I can see through that and make the numbers work, or take even a good property, but somehow get a VTB or attach great debt to a good property, you can make that a great property. And I think if you can find those right now, the opportunity is impeccable. But to your point, there's not a lot of them out there right now. What are your thoughts moving forward? Where do we go from a real estate standpoint here? Fast forward. And just so you know, everything you say here, we hold you to. Right? So where are we a year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now? From a commercial real estate standpoint, and residential too. Obviously, you guys are developing that as well.
I think 2-3 years from now, office is at a more regulated level, a more stabilized level. People are coming back to the office. There is a real push for that from larger corporations. Finally, it takes some courage for these large corporations to, to try to bring people back into the office, and they need to do that in a way that's encouraging and where people actually want to come back into the office. So one of the trends we're seeing is, and we're hearing from experts at Colliers and other places, is to bring people back, they actually want more space, not less space. They're used to their home office where they can shut the door and they can focus. And if they come back into an open office environment, which was the trend back in, 2018, 2019, they're not excited about that. So certain larger corporations are going to have to think about, okay, well, how do I create these more individualized offices? How do I get the space to create privacy for these people who've become accustomed to it over the last 3 years? And that's maybe help their perception of their productivity.
Yeah. Well, it's funny you say that because we were consulting for an office building just recently. And kind of our thoughts and what we see kind of in the numbers is that 10,000 square foot tenant is now potentially 15,000 square foot tenant, but with either some form of like a hybrid or something incorporated where that, I think the fear was the hybrid originally, that 10,000 square foot tenant is now 5,000 square feet, doesn't need as much room. But to your point, they're actually wanting more room for less people. So it seems like people are absorbing neighbors and all of that stuff in these buildings, and the vacancy rate obviously is higher than what we're used to. May not be as bad, I think, as what it sort of appears out there in the public right now.
Right.
And what the news has kind of made it. Because I know in some of the buildings that we do, the vacancy rates have made minimal. Any when stuff has come up for turn, it's been absorbed at relatively faster rates than maybe what or faster timelines than what we thought with it. Fast forwarding 3 years down the road, and obviously all of these projects you have in the ground right now, do you guys maybe go outside of the markets you're already in? Like is the BC Okanagan in Strand's play, or is it more kind of focusing on what you already have?
Yeah, I think we do look at the Okanagan. We see deals in the Okanagan all the time, and we do like that market. We're not as familiar with it.
Yeah,
we've done a lot more business in the U.S. than we have in the Okanagan, for example.
Yep.
The U.S. is a much bigger market. The Okanagan is, it's a relatively small market in the grand scheme of things. So I would say we're probably more looking at larger markets like Toronto, maybe Calgary, and then south of the border.
How does the stuff down south compare to what you're working up here in BC?
Typically, U.S. markets are a little more volatile than what we're looking at here in BC. We're more insulated. We've got the immigration to back up the ebbs and flows in the economy, whereas they don't have the same level of immigration on a per capita basis.
Yeah,
they're also much more transient. So people move into the big cities and then they'll move back home with mom and dad or back to the rural settings if the economy's not going as well.
Yeah, and
so apartment vacancy levels are much higher, and debt is more hot and cold, I would say, in the US than it is in Canada. You see institutions from the largest banks down to the small regional banks that are sort of shutting off the taps very quickly if they see things going awry. Whereas in Canada, you've got relationship-based lending where they're looking, forward 10, 15, 20 years, and you don't see the same level of, on and off, hot and cold.
So what I'm hearing is we're going to be okay, is what you're saying.
I think we're going to be okay.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think immigration driving, like I said, we can't get product to the market fast enough. And I think we'll all be very, very bullish on that. Kevin, before we leave you, we have our 6-pack of lighthearted questions we ask all of our guests so we get to know you a little bit more outside of the office.
Sure.
Can we keep you here for just 2 more minutes?
Let's go.
The 6-pack is powered by our great friends over at Red Point Law.
Oh, the guys at Red Point Law are fantastic, Cory.
For all your legal needs when it comes to commercial real estate, visit them at redpointlaw.ca. Okay, awesome. Melisa, why don't you lead us off?
All right. First question. Your favorite bar or restaurant? And I'm going to say specifically in Vancouver.
Wow, that is a great question. And not because I'm going there for lunch today, but I'm going to say Cipino's in Yaletown would be my favorite restaurant.
Okay.
A summer lunch on the patio at Cipino's is hard to beat.
If we could get this episode out fast enough, that lunch might be free, but I don't think we're going to get it out in time for your lunch today. So speaking of that, unfortunately, you've done something terrible. You found yourself on death row and you get one last meal before it's all said and done. What is the meal?
Well, I'm half Italian, so I'm gonna be biased in that direction. I think it's probably a vongole pasta, which is a clam pasta. It's one of my favorites, and it is summer, and we'll be out on the patio, so that's what I'm thinking about for today.
That sounds great. Next question up.
All right, next question. Your favorite band or musician?
Favorite band or musician?
What are you listening to?
I'm going to go with The War on Drugs. It's just something that I've been listening to lately.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm just going to go with that.
Yeah.
If it's not Nickelback, I don't know who they are.
I don't I've heard of them. Like, what kind of music is that?
That's like I would say it's new rock, but it's got a throwback sound to more of a classic rock style. I grew up on classic rock. My father was big into 70s and 80s rock, and that bled through to what I enjoy.
I'm going to go listen to War on Drugs.
I got something to listen to driving back to the office after this.
There you go.
So it's Friday night. You've been enjoying the wine on the patio. The night's coming to an end, but someone gives you a karaoke mic. What song are you singing?
Oh, I'm not singing. I'm and people respect that if they've ever heard me sing before.
You're like just a hard no.
Just a hard no. But I'm just thinking back to a bachelor party I was on, and the best karaoke experience that I ever had was a good friend of mine sang "Sledgehammer" by Peter Gabriel, I think it was. And I think I would have to go with that. I'd have to try and replicate that experience.
That's great. We haven't had that answer yet.
I don't know that song,
answer.
but I'm picturing like theatrics behind this.
You got to listen to it. After you hear it, you can be like, that's a good karaoke song.
All right. A book that you would recommend our listeners read?
I think anyone who's listening to this podcast should have read Am I Being Too Subtle by Sam Zell.
Oh,
good book.
He's a great real estate tycoon from the US, and he's got some great one-liners and just a lot of great insight into how to create an enduring business that isn't just looking at transactions, it's looking at the infinite mindset of how we look at business. And, one of the questions you asked earlier about West Second, why are you moving forward when others are not? And, it's very much in the line of Sam Zell. He would say, when others are looking left, you go right.
Totally. Yeah, our last episode we did is the best investment right now the office market? Mainly because the rule of thumb is always buy low, sell high. And when everyone else is kind of not interested in it as much, is this now the time to capitalize? Which obviously you guys are going to market with it. Last question, something that's had a positive impact on your life that's been $1,500 or less. We can raise the limit to 5,000 if we have to. We can go to 5,000. And I must say too, for all the view, everyone listening can't see how sharply dressed Kevin is. We have you in the studio today, and Adam sent a text out to the group saying that you're coming in person, pretty much warning all of us, no flip flops and tank tops today.
Don't wear your sweatpants.
Beach
He's vibes in here usually.
Well, I knew who I was meeting, so I wanted to dress for the occasion. So real pleasure to be here. I would say, I'm gonna go throw you for a loop here. My first surfboard. It was less than $1,500.
First surfboard.
Oh.
And it got me hooked on a sport that I've been chasing ever since. I'm not a golfer. I do some other sports, but it's something that has really consumed me for the last 20 or 25 years.
Wow.
Amazing.
Let's dig into that for a second.
Yeah.
Where do you go surfing up here? Do you go on surf trips?
I do go on surf trips.
Okay.
I do a little bit of surfing on Vancouver Island, but my favorite places to go are Maui. I went to Indonesia this year. I've been all over the world surfing, and
cool.
try to go somewhere where my wife will enjoy it, but I also have an opportunity to.
And does she surf too?
She does not.
No,
she does not.
She just watches.
So I sit there and I look at surfers when I'm in California or in Hawaii, and I'm like, shark bait. Like that's what I think. I would be so scared if I was out there in a wetsuit, that stuff. But
it's hard. It's like I've surfed a couple of times, and I think the first time I ever surfed, I got hit in the back of my head with the surfboard after it went flying, and I pouted on the beach for about half an hour, and I was like, I don't think I can
tried
do this.
Twice when I was younger. We had actually like boogie board surf lessons my parents put us in. I couldn't get on the board if my life depended. Never mind catch a wave. I couldn't get on the board. Like it was brutal. So I don't think people realize.
It's not for everybody. You need to be a bit of a glutton for punishment, and hence why I'm in the development industry.
Okay, there you go.
Every day,
it all ties in
by the city, by the municipalities we're dealing with, by our financiers. It's just nonstop.
So surfing is actually a relief for you. That's what you're saying.
It's good training for development.
But yeah, surfing has taught you, how to make it through, right?
That's right.
Well, Kevin, how can all of our listeners find out more about yourself and what you're doing, and also what's Strand and all your projects?
I think you can visit our website at stranddev.com. You can go check out our presentation center in Coquitlam on Clark Road. If you want to see what we're doing with our towers out there, I think you'd be pleasantly surprised with the amount of projects that we have and the level of history. If you haven't heard of Strand, we have been around for 45 years. We're very well capitalized. We have a lot of experience, and we're doing a lot of great things.
Excellent. Well, Kevin, thank you so much for joining us in studio and taking the time to come join us today.
Okay, appreciate it.
Thanks a lot,
Thank you, Kevin.
Yeah,
take care. Bye-bye. And there you have it, folks. Our interview with Kevin Johnston, president of Strand.
Great conversation, and great to have him in studio. It's so nice to be able to look our guests in the eye and really just have a candid conversation in person.
Well, I'm really glad I have a golf shirt and pants on today because Kevin shows up looking like he walked out of the window of Harry Rosen.
Sharply
dressed man.
Yeah.
joins us today in studio. I've got a golf shirt on and a pair of golf pants and sneakers, right? So I'm thinking I'm appropriately dressed only to get like shut down the second he walks in.
Hard to live up to.
I got to find a suit again. So for those people who didn't hear, we were talking between the intro and outro, and I said I'm going to donate $500 to the amazing cause.
Yeah.
And you said you're going to match it.
I did.
That's amazing. So we got $1,000 now.
Yeah.
$1,000 we've got here.
Amazing.
To start this off. So I'm going to make $500. You're going to donate $500, and hopefully the listeners will follow suit.
You're really setting the stage for some real generosity here. I like it.
This is great, but here's the best part. You're going to get a VCREP t-shirt out of the deal.
Oh,
and for those people who don't know, when Melissa's desk, when she turns around, she stares at the stack of shirts all day long.
Yeah.
I'm sure Adam won't let you touch them. But now, with your healthy donation of $500, you can probably pick one.
Maybe I'll get two.
Maybe you'll get two. Maybe you get two.
Great.
So for all those people out there who are looking to buy, sell, or lease commercial real estate, you can reach out to us at William Wright Commercial anytime at our Vancouver office at 604-428-5255. They can send me an email, Cory@williamwright.ca. I'll gladly share that with whatever broker makes the most sense for your transaction in the province. Or you can go to our website, williamwright.ca, and sign up for the latest and greatest news. And for all those who want to buy and sell condos in multiple offers, Melisa, how can they get a hold of you?
You can call me at 778-869-4477 or email me at melissa@vancouverrealestatepodcast.com.
Well, thank you so much for listening, guys. And I can see Melissa's holding up a sign now that says she's going to donate $600. So if you're trying to one-up me, I'm going to let you there. So we got $1,100, guys. Hopefully everyone else can go find the link. We'll put the link out there somewhere so people can also donate to this amazing cause. So thanks for listening, guys.
Subscribe today.